Don't want to forget that.
All right, there we go.
All right. Well, again, I just so enjoy watching you with those kids. Oh my gosh. I can tell you love it and they love you. And for me, that's the most important thing. We've talked about this before, how they just, they immediately know when to repeat after you and they follow your directions. And I mean, that's just so important. So anyway, you talked to me about the lesson. How did you think that went?
Well, I feel like this lesson went better. I feel like it's gradually getting, better, the whole online thing. Now, I did go over some other cohort members' videos. We have very few cohort members who teach kindergarten or even low primary. There's only myself and perhaps one other person. So, what's interesting is that some feedback I often got for my lessons was, what kind of, it's really scant, there really isn't much there, or, ask them maybe what this person does, what does a police officer do? But the trouble here is that the language proficiency is much lower than many of my other cohort members' classes, especially for this one cohort member I observed. I mean, she's fluently just speaking about science to 5 and 6 year olds, where I could never do that, even in a year from now,
Well, it's a different class. This is an ELL class. This is not, do you know what I mean?
You're right.
So, because I thought about that too, but you can't. You're just getting them to a point where they can actually understand what you're saying. So I think that the context is huge. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, what was I gonna say? But it is actually something that I've noticed about this school, is that compared to when my boss and I started our training center together, I mean, I had students who were the same age and the English proficiency was much higher. And I think I might have mentioned I received a new role in the fall. It's head of English curriculum and design. And so I was talking to my boss today, actually saying, we do have to kind of up the ante a bit, because these kids are going into KD level, and then a year in the future they will start maybe P1. So there's kind of a gap that we have to fill.
Yes.
So that's actually kind of why I started changing the way that I drilled the vocab, even though it wasn't phonics vocab. You'll notice I kind of switched it to what letter is it? It's letter F. F says for fireman. This way they can kind of get some initial reading skills, which I feel like they kind of lack. So it's kind of giving them that component. Yeah.
No, I think you're spot on. And I think that compared to maybe other, got this silly thing that keeps popping up. Compared to other immersion kinds of programs I've observed, especially in China, their proficiency is more like preschool. And so I don't know if you have a preschool age. Does your school have kids that come in at preschool?
Yeah, so for us, it's kind of all just integrated into one kindergarten. So they come into KA, they're roughly between 2 to 3. And then of course there's KB, which I think is kind of like maybe pre-K year 2. And then I'm trying to remember, because we don't use these terms, like so I think A and B would be the equivalent of like IB nursery. Yeah, and then
so I can see as you're designing this, those early years need to be hit really hard with sounds and letters.
And that's
so that
sorry. Yeah. That's exactly what I was saying to my boss. Well, I guess my line leader, I was really saying, like, I mean, we need to I told her, we're going to be so busy come autumn. Like we have a lot to do. Like, because she was saying, oh, maybe they can begin letter sounds in KB, which you saw my students are KC. And I'm like, no, like we need to have them doing this in KA, you know.
Yes,
And I think you're right. We need to just
absolutely.
not bombard them, but really get them into it, you know. Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course, they're little tiny guys, but if you think about how well your kids responded to songs, look at, strategies and things you can do with songs, as
Mhm.
little ones, sounds and letter. I mean, I love this stuff. I love early childhood. So,
Mhm.
it's very exploratory, but the most effective teachers I have seen at this, there is day in, day out, this phonics activity. I mean, they're doing other things too, but centers, there's lots of letter identification. You don't expect them to read, but
Mhm.
if you look at literacy development,
Mhm. Mhm.
you might have a look at that. What is it that they need here? And then how do I build on that? And like some of our conversations about environmental print, that, once they know the letters and sounds and they begin to recognize there are words in my world, and then they can begin to do uh, sight words usually comes later, but
Yeah.
you begin to do like CVC,
CVCs, exactly.
right? And then you're really playing with those words and how they blend together. And
And
it's remarkable how fast kids can pick it up.
100%. And I even touch on this too. It's almost like you tap my phone. But today we were saying how like back when I was running the training center, like for my current students age, they're 4 and 5. I mean, these kids in the training center I ran, we were already doing CBC blends and some CBCC. So I was like, so how, as asking, so how is it these kids can do that? And we're in the countryside and now we're in Shanghai and these kids can't even, they can barely do the double consonant blends, like CH,
Mm.
DH, So I was saying like, we've really got to get it going. And so in the lesson plan, I'm not sure why I never included this in any of my other lesson plans um, to submit to you actually, but for I don't know, forever long we've been online in Shanghai. I've been sending these digital worksheets home. I don't know if you saw them, but
I did.
I make them in Canva. I feel like, I mean, I have a blast making them, and I hope the
That's
kids like them
awesome.
too. Because I mean, the initial thing is just to get used to this new sound, and then identify like new corresponding vocab words like whale, wide. But then now in the last 2 weeks, we focused on like distinguishing two different consonant blends. So like you'll notice like, yeah, that's what's on the worksheet. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think as you map it out, it's I would look at you know teaching literacy from point A, right? And and then map out what will the proficiencies be that you expect from that little nursery school
Mm,
up to the next level, up to the next level.
mm,
And then rich um experiences with, because at the kindergarten level, you can begin to do like in the old days. I would have um like your chant. I would use that as an example, maybe up on a chart paper.
mm,
And then I would have kids come up and identify different letters
mm, mm,
and then identify different words. They begin to see some of those, they begin to already recognize some of those little frequently used words like on, off, the,
mm,
and just because they're seeing it over and over again.
mm, mm,
So there's lots of little activities, you can build up to with that. Anyway, that's exciting. Good for you.
mm, mm,
That'll be fun.
mm,
Yeah. So anyway, back to this, for the purposes of this and for, your evaluation, you have to deal with what you have and where the students are. And so, any suggestions that were made to expand that, you have to take that feedback you know, from your peers,
Mhm.
and it's good feedback. Yes, that's
Yeah,
true. However, my students are not there yet. Yeah.
yeah, but soon will be.
Yeah, of
Mm,
course. Of course. Yeah. And I've seen them even just in the time that I've been watching them, they're more responsive.
mm.
I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I think they've come back. The one thing I see you doing better and better is your pacing.
Okay.
You this one was just you moved from one thing to the other because they were ready, right? They're more capable.
Mm,
So you included, I think, 2 songs, and
mm,
um so
mm.
I think you just did a great job with that.
Oh, thank you.
How do they do on their little worksheets? What
Um,
do you see there?
so let's stop here.